Hello, everyone. This is Julie from August Birdsong, and I am showing you today just a project that I started really when I was cleaning up from my big medieval art project, and I was putting things away, and I've been really wanting to get my jelly plate out for the longest time, but it's just always been, well, I've got all these other papers and things I'm doing, and I didn't take the time. So I finally did, and made some jelly prints, and here are just some examples. Nothing fancy, just using some stencils and rolling some color down. I am not an expert with jelly printing at all. The main thing I know is it's good to keep your jelly plate kind of dirty. Let the paint build up a bit, and then when you put a fresh coat over it, it will pull up a lot of texture from old prints, and so that's something I'm always kind of trying to achieve with it. So for example, here you see all these colors and speckled bits and all. Excuse me. That is from other jelly prints I put down where bits of the paint stuck to my jelly. Here's I have a big one, and this is a smaller one that I'll pull out just to show you if you're not familiar with jelly printing. This is what it is. This is your jelly print, and you roll. Put some paint down. You roll. Woo! You roll that off the table there. He's kind of sticking to that actually. You just roll your paint down on it, and I'll show you some in a later video. You can see there's plenty of paint on my roller here. And then put your paper down on it, like that. And then as you pull it up, now it won't have the heron on it, that's from a stencil. But as you pull it up, you get these different layers of paint. So maybe this one was an off-white, kind of an eggshell paint, but these other little bits of old color, of old paint, were already on the jelly plate. You can even see a little there. If you can kind of see on that, see some of the speckles of paint and stuff on there. Those were on there from another time I was using it, but they came off on this. So instead of just having a white canvas there, I have all of this. So, I mean, that's the one thing I would pass on about my knowledge of jelly printing. I haven't done much with it for 2 years, so I need to get back into practice before I give you much more advice. But here you can see, this was from the other day, and I have the full size. It's a real large jelly plate that I did this one with. But you can see some of these other bits and pieces that show up in it are from other prints. Look here, if you can see that little batch of kind of a burgundy there, and down here, see some of this showing up. So a lot of that is just remnants from old jelly prints that were already done on there. This is one I used a stencil. You can see the crisscross pattern from that. But again, see some of these little bits and, here, let me get it under the camera there, where you have picked up. This is another one on the other side. I wasn't sure which one I wanted to keep, but you can see all that texture. And when you get a really good one picking it up, you can literally feel it. You can see just the roughness of that old paint on there. So that's where this all began the other day, was with me pulling out, I actually pulled out my bigger one. This is a medium-sized one. The big one I have is about the size of these 2 pieces of black paper together, so it's big. And when I use that, I take just multiple pieces of paper and put them down, pulling prints from all over it. And I will make a video showing that. But what this is a collection of prints, just like this kind of thing I was showing you. And I took an envelope like this. It's just this, we had something come in this. And this was, maybe this was the one you're supposed to mail something back. I don't remember. It was a flyer. But what I do is I cut off the edges here. You can see, you know, I had initially just ripped it open with an envelope thing. But what I do is just take my, let me get this here. I thought I had this one done, but I don't. I just cut off the edges. I've tried using like an X-Acto knife and a scissors to just slide it, you know, slide the crease. And I'm not so hot at that. It ends up being all ripped and torn. But so my image here, all of this booklet, started with an envelope, okay? And if you look at it, when I open it up, you can see it's not as big of an opening. I ended up covering it up a little because I didn't have a picture quite that big. And this was more of a traditional sized image from Mrs. Cog's Crafts. So what I did, I didn't jelly print on this. I tore up pieces of my jelly print pages. So I literally, I'm going to work on this one in a few minutes. So I'm going to just kind of eyeball it and show you. I literally just took, I have two types of tear things, a ruler. I'm going to use that because I want kind of a bit of a straighter edge here. And I literally just eyeball it. No measuring, you know, it's just like that. And when I do this, you know, I put it like that. Now here you can see there is some overflow there. So for that, I'm just going to, again, doesn't matter if the piece isn't the perfect size because it gets a lot of different layers. But what I do next then is, and you've seen me do this with other things I've made videos of, I just ink the edges. And you don't need to do this. Sorry, it's a little bit dry. But you get the idea. I ink the edges. And then I just used, in this case, it's just a Elmer's glue stick. I ran out of my like super strong one, but this has worked just fine. And I just, in this case, you know, put it on the back, lose that side, and glue it down. And eventually it's going to get built up with all of the scraps and pieces from tearing those pieces apart. And so then I go in and, you know, add them to it. So imagine on this, if I want to, let's say I want that there, and I'm going to come in like this here. Of course, I'm going to want to ink the edge up on that and on the outer layer of it too. But that's how I get it. And I even will go like, oh, this isn't going to work so hard. Great, because it's so thin. But you get the point. I'll take it right up to that edge or glue it down and then take my scissors and cut the white off so that I'm just left with that blue edging. So I do that all the way around. And it sounds like it would take a ton of time, but it really doesn't, because once you get moving and you're adding, look here, you're adding your strips in. And, you know, if I glue those down, and then I'm also adding ink to the edges, and suddenly, you know, you're just, it's like putting a puzzle together. You're just adding pieces and, you know, working from that. I didn't put it on the sewing machine until I had the whole envelope covered. And so, I did the front, I did the back. This was the easiest, obviously. Or what you can also do is, I worked with it this way, kind of putting strips and stuff. And then I opened it up and went back and, here's one. Actually, I would tear the edges a little on this, or put it in and then, overlap it a little to make it look rougher. But you can cover a fair amount of space with it. I'm using an envelope only because I liked the windows. Otherwise, you could, use whatever you wanted for this. Just use the jelly print. Even that would be fine. But this is what kind of started the process. So here I'm going to walk you through this. If you are seeing this, you probably saw it on Instagram, but if not, you can also look at pictures of it there. But this is just, again, just like I just showed you, this is just that envelope opened up. See how that worked? And these were different jelly prints that I put down. I started with the first page. I knew I kind of wanted this to be Mediterranean or Persian. So here I've got this Egyptian goose. And I had this left over from when I was making my medieval binder. And anyways, I hadn't used that because it looks different from medieval times. But I loved this image of her with the gold. And this one comes from, I'm pretty sure it's Mrs. Coggs Crafts. And if not her, then you know what? I think it's Farm Mirage. A digital kit on Farm Mirage. Maybe under Beautiful Women, if I remember. They both have all these wonderful, like, classic paintings, Mrs. Coggs Crafts and Farm Mirage, and so they're usually from one of those. And then this is from a kit, Ancient Travelers, on Mrs. Coggs Crafts digital kit site. And then this paper is actually from Medieval Mirage, and she has beautiful kits with, as you'll see, the colors coming through. But I thought it just went really well with those colors in the jelly prints. So you can see here I added those extra papers. And then when you open it, okay, this one was my first attempt. So if I did this differently, I would increase kind of the bending points. It's I'd make the spine of it a little bit wider, because right now it's feeling a little tight with this in here. But that's how you learn. You're practicing things and you don't know for sure. You're like, well, I'll do it this way, and then you learn for the next time. So I'll work with this. I could, if it was bothering me enough, I could probably take this back out and try to reconfigure it a little. But for now, it's good enough. This, again, here's some more jelly prints, and here is a stencil. It's of a fish, and I just used a vintage photo distress ink through the stencil to get that. And again, I want things sort of hazy. I don't want it so distinct that it's just, smack down. I want it to be almost murky and emerging, the way it would look underwater if a fish was sort of swimming there. Now, you heard me talk about the, the excess paint pulling up from the jelly plate. And here, I hope you can see that. See that texture? That is the old paint left over coming up on the print. And I intentionally stenciled my fish there to try to capture that in, like, the scales of the fish. Okay, but that's the kind of grunge I'm looking for with a jelly print, is when you can especially catch that kind of texture with it. Over here you can see various jelly print strips that I glued down, and then with a stencil from Stencil Girl Products. That's where this stencil and this one, Stencil Girl Products, sells these. And I used, this was a Distress Oxide. I think it's Mermaid Lagoon Distress Oxide stamp from Ranger Tim Holtz. And that's that blue. It almost looks like paint, but it's a Distress Oxide. And so here, I have it up here. It's this one, Mermaid Lagoon. And, you know, it's just like that, but it comes out really rich. Now, I didn't add water to it. If I had added some water, it would have made it, what would you say, sort of melting, not melting, that's not the right word, but, you know, wet. It would have distressed that ink out, the pigment. So here, this, if you didn't notice, this is a small envelope. So this is made from an envelope like this. And it's same process. I cut it open. It's cut down a little more on this particular one, but that's where it came from. It's just from an envelope. And my goal is probably to have some pages. This is all me just figuring it out as I go. I'll probably make this some kind of a journal or some kind of flip through of some images or something. It can't be too bulky though. So it may just be slipping a few pages under it and having them be maybe like for a list. This would be a good area, a thin area that you could, jot notes or a list on it, that kind of thing. You can see here, these are different prints. So like this paint and all, this print probably didn't come off of the same one as that. And this here is just a book page. You always hear me talking about my brother's old Hardy Boy books. And I use the hardcovers for bookbinding too. But it's jelly print on it. It works great. And there you have that. And then you've also got the other side, which I haven't decorated yet. And this is just from a stencil. Let me see if it's around here. I'm trying to find it without knocking everything everywhere. Oh, I found it. This is a stencil. You can't tell from looking at it here. It's actually steps going up. If you got a real clear print of everything, it's like steps with words. I used it simply for the texture. So if you look here, it's kind of bumpy and all. So I used it not for the words and stuff. I just used it to create these texture lines and went over it. In this case, I used black and it came out kind of charcoal on here, but that's how I got that. It was simply using a stencil for, I wanted that grunginess. So if you have stencils that have other stuff going on, for example, let's see, this is this dragonfly one. This one, I think is a, Crafter's Workshop, I think from them, possibly. It's not Stencil Girl, I don't think. But I used this for some of the little stonework in it. And also these swirls. Let me see here. Can you see that swirl right there? And that is from this stencil. And so I didn't want a dragonfly on this. I could put one on it, but at the time I wasn't thinking about a dragonfly. I just was looking for, I wanted something that seemed like pebbles. And, and this could even be a seashell or something. And so there are a few places where you can kind of see them coming through. And again, I made it very kind of murky. Everything isn't, just real flat and plain. This is one that's in here, and this is from Stencil Girl Stencils. And like you can see here, see some of these like half circles. Let me see if I can get it. So see how that came from that. And this is just a nice random, you can just, here you've got these little, what would you call them? Triangle, square bits, that kind of thing. So that's how I have put this together. The images like from Medieval Mirage, I started these last summer, a year ago, and when I bought the kit, and I just was putting them on old book pages. And so I'll be using these. I haven't been working. This isn't from Medieval Mirage. That's a decoupage napkin. I've been keeping these because I knew I wanted to do something with it. I just didn't know what. So here, this is from my old book of like Shakespeare and other old poetry. And this is going to become a flap. And I'll show you. Same with this. This is from the set, and it's just, this one has some different things in the background. This man is from Mrs. Cog's Crafts. Same with these girls. But the background paper and all on these is from Medieval Mirage. So I'm going to show you with the second book I started. This one I'm calling Persian Dreams. And again, these aren't going to be super big. They're going to be in a collection I'm going to call Ancient Times. And here, if you can see, is an image. This is like a bazaar, a shop, a sales area in Persia. And this is, again, Mrs. Cog's Crafts. This image came from the kit from Medieval Mirage. And this is all jelly print. And this, again, is a envelope, like I showed you, the big envelope with the window. You can see I had a bigger print there for that one, if you can see that. And here I added it was just basically one of those. I added it and put, if you've seen me talk about making hinges, and you can just do it by hand if you have a scoreboard like this. It does a neater job. So I just did a sloppy job. But if you put it on there, and there, now you've done it like that, right? And then you cut it a little bit at the corner so it's not right up to the edge. And if I wanted to use this for this one, let's say I was using it, it would go behind it just like this, opening on the inside, okay? And then here is where I'll do the other cut. And then you just glue it. If this was my pocket, I would flip it over. This is the bottom. I would glue on here. And then I'd put my other two sides on. Same process, but shorter. And then you glue the outer ones on all three sides. Flip it over and press it down. And what that does is when it opens, can you see that? It opens the pocket so it's deeper and you can fit something a little bigger or maybe a few things in there. You don't have to make a hinge like this, but it does make the pocket a little stronger for putting this kind of thing in. And this is just a tag from an image from Mrs. Cog's Crafts. or no, this is from Farmerage. Sorry, I get them flipped. And then this is some jelly print I did, and I have this little goat stamp. I bought at a garage sale years ago. I have no idea. It says 1992, and it says Rubber Poet. I don't know if that's a brand or a store. Someone's name is on it, but I loved it. It reminds me of like cave paintings, very primitive and all. And so I've had it forever, and I thought this was a good place for it. And I used it also in the journal, in this. This is again the jelly print, and these circles came from a texture plate. It's I don't have it out right now. It looks like a stamp. And but it usually is just rubber. There's no foam on it for like attaching to let's see here, the different things that you can attach stamps to. It doesn't go on one of these. It's just the rubber itself unmounted, and then when you have your jelly plate out, you're putting it down using it that way. And I think they're called texture plates is the term for them, texture plates. And this is all just circles, and so you can see some come out looking like that, some come out like the inside of the circle. But if you look at the texture, it just really creates a neat effect. And again, if you pick up some old paint or some other stuff, it just adds to it. Let's see what's behind her up here. You have all of that. So if I open it, now you can see this is just one of those things. I could have used this as a pocket. Right now, it's not finished. I just tucked it in there as a possibility. But here, remember I showed you some of these on the old Shakespeare paper? Well, that's what those were. And so these were just two that I also had in the Medieval Mirage kit. And so I had already made them. They were just sitting there. And so what I did the same thing with this as I did with that pocket. I made three of these. A short one again for that, a long one for along here, a short one here, and left this open. And that's glued down. And then you can, if I wanted here, I could put that in there. I could put that in there. By putting the hinge on, it gives you more room to tuck things. Or maybe I want to put a picture in there. And I did the same thing on this side. Now the ribbon will make it a little bulkier, but that's okay. They have the hinges, and that will give it a little give as long as you don't press something too big through there. And this is again on pieces of jelly print that I glued onto the envelope. And there's that little goat stamp, if you see. And he's down here as well. I just kind of randomly put him on here, and some of him is under some of these tuck spots on the sides. But I just wanted it to have a real primitive feel, just, ancient, kind of grungy by our standards today, but grunge sort of depicts age and time and wear and tear on things, and that's kind of what I'm going for. And here is this side as well, some Medieval Mirage paper. And when I put this together, these were already stitched when I made them last summer, so they were good to go. I stitched the whole little journal up before adding these. So I didn't add those and then put it on for the whole journal. I stitched the journal together once all of the jelly print was down, and I was happy with it. And then I started embellishing it. And this is definitely still a work in progress. And, I'm not sure what I'm going to all do with it again. My next plan is I'll make a video, another one, not this video, where I start to do this process I've told you about on a new envelope. And then you can actually watch me do it and see a little of how it starts to come together. So that's my video for today. I hope you learned a few things, or if you have a jelly, a little jelly plate, if you go to, what is it? It's like jelly, let's see, jelly art or something to that effect. Here, I bought mine through the franticstamper.com jelly printing plate. And when you spell it jelly, it's spelled that way. And it just comes like this, and it's got these clear little panels. And I just store mine in this. You want to keep it, from drying out too much. It's not wet, but you don't want it to just totally get too much air on it. I have that impression, at least. And that's that. So I hope you learned something. And like I said, the next video, I'll work on this envelope, and you can see what I end up adding to that one. So have a good day, stay healthy, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.